We define ourselves through our history, culture, and food, but we so rarely think to stop and ask, how does it all work? Revealed examines the hows and whys while pulling the curtain back on things you never thought to ask. On this episode, we uncover the hidden world behind every dropped coffee cup, overflowing trash bin, and rumbling garbage truck in the city of New York and beyond.
We can look at the facts about New York City garbage. We generate somewhere in the neighborhood of 36,000 tons a day of garbage.
Pick up garbage, put it in the truck. Clean up the city.
I strongly believe that sanitation is the most important uniform force on the streets of the city.
At the end of the day, everyone has trash.
But it's off our radar. We put it on the curb, someone comes and takes it away, but that dropped piece of garbage, that has consequences.
Given the constant flow of people, material, and goods, it's nothing short of a miracle that New York City and the tri-state area, home to nearly 23 million people, functions as smoothly as it does. And the prompt and efficient disposal of garbage is key to making it all work. The average American produces almost 5 pounds of garbage per day, meaning that the tri-state area creates 40 million tons of waste annually. So how do we deal with that enormous mountain of trash without it becoming its own zip code? The answer starts by taking it to the streets and acknowledging some unsung heroes.
Garbage man is fine.
Yeah, garbage man's good.
Yeah, it's not demeaning or anything. It's a good job.
Dermot Morris and Joe Bonura are garbage men for the city of Yonkers, New York, just across the border from New York City. Without garbage men like them, the tri-state area would come to a complete standstill, buried under the weight of its own trash.
Kind of know what, each other sometimes is thinking, even when you're working together.
Like a love-hate relationship.
Though the pay can't compete with big Wall Street salaries, the benefits are good, and there's long-term stability. As long as there are people, there will always be a steady supply of garbage.
Monday's about 42,000 pounds on a Monday.
It's a lot of garbage.
The garbage collection industry in the United States costs a whopping $80 billion per year, and more than 95,000 people are employed as sanitation workers across the U.S. But despite being a reliable and stable profession, sanitation work does come with its own set of hazards.
We try and move as fast as we can.
Yeah, sometimes you get people that are in a rush to get their coffee, so we're in their way. They're not very kind to us sometimes.
I've been on the receiving end of some obscene gestures before.
As a former sanitation worker herself, Robin Nagel has seen her fair share of demanding work situations.
I was on the job itself as a sanitation worker. I drove the truck, I plowed the snow, I operated the brooms. Sanitation and refuse work is among the most dangerous job categories in the country.
In fact, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, sanitation work is the 4th most dangerous profession in the U.S. It's even more dangerous than being a firefighter or a police officer.
People don't think of sanitation work as dangerous because no one's pointing a gun at you. You're not running into a burning building. Things people throw out, even innocuous things like you have a can of pet food and the edge of the lid is really sharp, or you have broken glass. Garbage explodes, garbage flies out of the back of the truck. The truck itself can malfunction.
If you look away for a minute and you're dumping a can, the other guy's packing the truck and your hand's in there, you don't have a hand anymore. There's a cable that comes down to lift containers and you have to reset the hook on the back of the truck. Someone was pulling up the line while he was holding the hook and
It took my hand with it. The tip of my finger was created from my thumb. I had 2 surgeries where they were sewn together. So there's no feeling here or here.
Clearly, being a sanitation worker is not for the faint of heart, but the idea of having a paid civil servant collect your household garbage on a regular basis is, in fact, a revolutionary concept and a relatively modern invention. The story goes back to the early 1600s when New York City was a Dutch colony called New Amsterdam. There were fewer than 2,000 people living here, and at that time, there was no formal waste management system. Everybody simply dumped their garbage into the streets or rivers. Back then, people didn't fully understand the link between waste and disease, but they did recognize that bad odors and visible filth were unpleasant and could cause sickness. Enter Peter Stuyvesant, the one-legged Dutch Director General of New Amsterdam, who was known for his strict authoritarian rule.
In 1657, Peter Stuyvesant made a law that you were allowed to put your garbage in only one of 5 locations in the colony. They were all along the water's edge.
Directing all garbage to those locations helped clean up the Dutch colony, but it also had an important residual effect.
The Dutch back in the day were already good at building land out of water, and so they were bringing that practice to North America and using garbage as a form of landfill.
Garbage compacted over time creates a stable foundation, especially when reinforced with debris, soil, wood, and animal bones. The net effect was to extend Manhattan's shoreline.
There is evidence of built land going out as far as 3 blocks on the east side and 2 blocks on the west side into the East River and the Hudson River. And that land filling happened up into the late 19th century. Fully a third of Manhattan below 14th Street is built on fill.
You heard that right. At least 33% of Lower Manhattan is built on a garbage dump. But that uniquely Dutch answer to the trash disposal problem wasn't a lasting solution. Garbage remained an ongoing issue due to a lack of organized waste management and rapid population growth. For the next 200 years, from 1650 to 1850, New York's population ballooned to around 500,000 people, and all of them continued to generate more and more garbage. For many New Yorkers, one animal was a practical, if unsanitary, solution to the city's chronic trash problem: pigs. At one point, 50,000 pigs roamed wild in the streets of the city, scavenging for garbage and forever on the prowl for the next meal.
When Charles Dickens toured New York in 1842, he talked about how surprised he was to see pigs on the streets of this supposedly great metropolis.
New York was indeed a great city, but it was also an incredibly foul-smelling place due to the seemingly ever-present piles of trash at every corner.
By this time in the city's history, we were infamously filthy. If you were a sailor coming into the harbor, you could smell New York from 6 miles out at sea.
By the mid-1800s, New Yorkers were also battling deadly epidemics of cholera, typhoid, and yellow fever, diseases fueled by the city's growing trash and sanitation crisis, killing thousands.
At one point in the 19th century, mortality rates made New York one of the deadliest cities on the planet. Cholera was especially violent because you'd be sick in the morning, then you'd look fine, and then you'd be dead by the end of the day. Like, it was violently quick.
It wasn't until the 1860s that New Yorkers began to make the connection between poor sanitation and disease. Public health reformers made significant strides in linking waste management to public health. But Tammany Hall, rife with political corruption, stifled any efforts at sanitation reform.
Other great cities had solved this problem, but we were hamstrung, paralyzed by the Tammany Hall corruption that ruled the politics of the city and the state. We could have cleaned our streets, but the people running the show did not make that a priority.
That was until 1894, when the reform-minded William L. Strong was elected mayor. The war on garbage needed a hero, and in 1895, Mayor Strong found him.
A Civil War veteran and self-styled sanitary engineer named Colonel George Waring. He had a flair for what today would be called public relations, and he wanted the public to understand that sanitation work is your first guardian of public health.
Waring took over the department just as sanitary conditions had become intolerable. He quickly established a white uniformed corps of workers wearing pith helmets and pushing wheeled carts, nicknamed the White Wings. Waring imposed a military structure on the department to ensure discipline and prevent distractions. Before long, his men started having an impact. Horse manure and carcasses laying in the streets were gathered, and shin-deep waste was cleared from all over the city.
They actually cleaned the streets, they picked up the garbage. Waring chose some of the filthiest sections of the city for his start, because he said, if I can't clean the worst parts of the city, I shouldn't have the job. And in the beginning, the residents were hostile, but then they recognized that the guys were actually making life better.
The success of Waring's efforts was so quick, he earned the moniker the Apostle of Cleanliness.
One of Waring's innovations was a garbage can on wheels. So you would go out in the morning if you're sweeping and fill your can, and then a cart would come by and you'd tip it into a cart.
But the tons of refuse that Waring's men collected each day had to go somewhere, and that somewhere was usually a barge waiting at one of the city's dumping piers.
Once the barges were full, tugboats would pull them out to sea. They were supposed to go a certain minimal distance from shore. If they could bribe the harbor master to not go that far and thus have a shorter trip, they would do that.
The city mandated that those barges dump their waste into the ocean at least 17 to 21 nautical miles from shore, but often the distance was ignored, and New York City's garbage, including raw sewage, industrial waste, food scraps, broken furniture, and even medical refuse, would regularly wash up on New Jersey's beaches. Upset at constantly being buried in New York's garbage, the public outcry in New Jersey grew so loud that it finally did what any fed-up neighbor would do: New Jersey sued New York.
The city kept dumping at sea until 1934, and it took a United States Supreme Court order to stop the practice. So the city went nuts.
Being a professional sanitation worker in the tri-state area comes with its own unique moments and surprises.
A lot of times you'll find, people get a dead animal in their driveway or something. They pick up
Put it
a
in a
garbage
bag.
bag, put it in the can, and sometimes they're not dead. So many times we've got
Before
a
you know
dead
it, you're
skunk.
squeezing that truck and there's a skunk in there and you smell that for blocks.
One time we backed up on a big stop and we took the lid off and there was a raccoon there. I'm telling you, it was the size of the tire on the truck, and it was just sitting there looking up at you. That can didn't get picked up that day.
And while encountering all kinds of critters is part of the job, no creature is as closely associated with garbage in the tri-state area as the rat.
Rats carry as many as 50 different kinds of diseases. There are reasons that you don't want a rat on your street, in your home, in your trash.
The first rat sighting in New Amsterdam was recorded in the 1620s, marking the beginning of the city's long history with these resilient rodents. They were likely stowaways aboard ships bound from Europe, with the main species being the Norway rat, also known as the brown rat. And while rats have been a part of New York City's history for centuries, today it's up to one person to ensure their numbers don't keep growing.
A rat can fit through anything larger than the size of a quarter.
Meet Kathleen Karani, New York City's rat czar. It's her job to make sure New York's estimated population of 3 million rats doesn't get any larger, and she does that by keeping a rat's amorous passions under control.
Rat contraceptive is a bait. They have to feed on that product.
When a rat contraceptive gets mixed with discarded pizza or other tasty food waste, the temptation to eat the contraceptive is just too good for a rat to resist.
I think a big misconception is that it's a one-time feed and now the rats are sterilized. It's not. It's a daily or a frequent feed of that product to make sure it has efficacy for those animals. What you have to deal with in our city is food competition. Basically, if there's a reliable food source that the rats have gone to for decades, the rats will always go back to that reliable food source. So we have to make sure we're eliminating food competition and then get those rats to feed on that contraceptive.
Keeping rats from multiplying is a constant battle. But even with sterilization efforts, the city's biggest challenge remains the sheer amount of waste they feast on.
Once the Supreme Court banned ocean dumping, we started landfilling like mad, all over, in small and large ways.
In 1948, Parks Commissioner Robert Moses established the Fresh Kills landfill in Staten Island. By 1955, it was the largest landfill in the world, employing 680 people to help process 29,000 tons of garbage per day. And it was so large, it was visible from space.
Fresh Kills landfill itself, that wasn't opened until 1948, but only because Staten Islanders successfully fought it off for 10 years. Robert Moses, New York City's sort of a dictator, he promised New York Fresh Kills would only be accepting trash for 3 years. Fresh Kills closed 51 years later. So he's a little off on that estimate.
By the time Fresh Kills closed on May 22, 2001, the landfill contained an astonishing 150 million tons of solid waste, enough to fill 60,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools.
Fresh Kills apparently smelled so bad. People talked about throwing up. That was so literally nauseating.
What was once a massive mountain of garbage is now being transformed into a sprawling park by covering Fresh Kills with soil, adding drainage, methane gas management systems, and planting vegetation.
Fresh Kills now is the largest parks project in the city since Central Park. It will be 2,200 acres of green space. It's so big you can't see the whole footprint of it from any single vantage point. It's an extraordinarily beautiful space.
Thanks to lessons learned from Fresh Kills, New York City has banned all landfill dumping within city limits.
There is a policy called borough self-sufficiency. No borough may dump its garbage in any other borough. The logic of borough self-sufficiency is that there will never be another Fresh Kills. There will never be one borough that is shouldering the burden of garbage for the rest of the city.
With limited disposal options and a population of over 8 million people generating tons of trash every day, it raises a bigger question. Do New Yorkers truly produce this much waste out of necessity, or is it the result of a larger systemic issue?
Look how cute this is.
One person thinks she has the answer.
My name is Anna Sachs. I am the trash walker. We are on Manhattan's Upper West Side tonight. We're going on a little trash walk where we go through residential and corporate waste. This is not IKEA. Do you want it?
Sachs is a former investment banker who grew up in the city and began to wonder what's in those constantly multiplying mountains of trash bags she passes by every day. So she did what any curious New Yorker would do. She took a look.
It's a lot of books. I was curious about what we were tossing as New Yorkers. It's a nice hamper, another mug, and wanted to start exploring that more. How is it we're generating this much waste? And what's in there? So these like storage bins. So I just posted this photo of this piece.
And Anna has taken to social media to reveal the surprising items she's discovered in people's trash, amassing more than 400,000 followers on TikTok and 100,000 on Instagram.
Our place pan, artwork that's framed.
This is crazy. I feel like this is like a supermarket sweep or something. Yeah, lunch for tomorrow. Oh my god. The mini fridges?
Anna is the legislative chair for the Manhattan Solid Waste Advisory Board and uses her dumpster diving to expose waste and encourage more sustainable policies.
I think it's an opportunity for people to reflect on their own consumption and their own waste. Like this, I think someone would take. It's a popular book, what they're generating.
I'll just show you bread.
I think we are a culture of excess. I think that it's so hard to escape.
Shoes.
The entire nation, I think, needs to balance our relationship with objects, and I think we'd be in a healthier state once we do that.
Bag of clothing. Oh wow. New with tags.
The goal is to create systemic change.
While New Yorkers still only recycle about 18% of their garbage, growing awareness and new initiatives are slowly driving change. In New York City and the tri-state area, garbage seems to vanish almost like magic.
We put it on the curb. Someone comes and takes it away while we're at work or at night.
But the answer of where all the garbage goes lies with a vast army of workers dedicated to waste management on a gargantuan scale.
We export all of our trash now. Garbage is collected by truck from the street, then goes by train to landfills in other parts of the country. Alabama, Virginia, Ohio. It also goes to a waste-to-energy facility near Newark, New Jersey.
Here at the Union Plant in Rahway, New Jersey, trash is converted into energy, providing a cleaner alternative to traditional landfills.
At this facility, within a year, we receive enough waste to fill 1.2 Madison Square Gardens.
This is where the waste is being burned. The waste ignites and it burns, and at the end it's just ash and metal falling off the edge. It's burning at about 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
The power that's generated here on site gets fed into the local electrical grid, and it's enough to power 28,000 to 30,000 homes.
New Jersey also has 20 active landfills like this one, the Monmouth County Reclamation Center.
This is what we call the working face of the landfill. This is where all the garbage trucks come to dump their trash. And we have compactors that go over it and over it until it's reached the right compaction, and then they move to a different area.
Eventually, this landfill will likely be repurposed into an environmentally sustainable space, such as a public park for the local community. And even a controversial former garbage dump can reinvent itself, recycling its past into a new purpose for a greener future.
We're on the site of the Fresh Kills landfill that for many decades received the majority of solid waste in New York City, was closed in the early 2000s by state law.
In a shift from reckless waste disposal to environmental sustainability, Fresh kills is where the city's organic waste is turned into nutrient-rich soil through a natural decomposition process.
I love seeing how something can be transformed into this beautiful product that we can use to grow plants and make the world a better place.
From the big trucks on the ground to cutting-edge facilities, managing New York's garbage is a massive undertaking.
I deeply respect people who do that work. To call them heroes, it's an overused word now, I think, but I think they still qualify.
The story of New York's garbage is not just about waste, but about the resilience, ingenuity, and unwavering determination of its people to shape a cleaner, more sustainable future.
At the end of the day, everyone has trash.